All right, so we're back and ready to dive into, well, honestly, one of the most intense season finales I've seen in a while, Dune, Prophecy, Episode 6, The High-Handed Enemy.
Yeah, they really they didn't hold back, did they?
Not at all. I mean, unleashing a bioweapon, that's taking things to a whole new level. And it really makes you think about the choices these characters are making, especially Valia and Tula Harkonnen. I mean, talk about a family divided.
Absolutely, and you can really see how the writers are drawing on the deeper themes of the Dune universe.
Hmm.
This idea of power, ambition, and how easily they can corrupt even the most well-intentioned people.
Right. Like with Valia, we see this incredible transformation. At the start of the season, she's working within the system, trying to make things better from the inside. But by the finale, she's willing to break every rule, cross every line to achieve her goals. What do you think caused that shift? What was the tipping point for her?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, right? There's the pressure of her family legacy, the Harkonnens being known for their ruthlessness and brutality.
Yeah, they haven't exactly been the best stewards of Arrakis, have they?
Not at all, and that weight of history is definitely hanging over Valia. But then you also have the immediate threats she's facing, the political maneuvering, the constant struggle for power, and of course this new bioweapon, this technovirus as they call it.
Which is terrifying, by the way. Just the idea of a weapon that can take over a person's body and mind, it's like something out of a nightmare.
And you have to wonder what kind of desperation would drive someone to even consider using something like that.
It makes you question Valia's motives, doesn't it? Is she purely driven by ambition, or is there a deeper fear driving her actions? Is she trying to protect herself, or is she just grasping for power?
It's a great question, and I think the show leaves it open for interpretation. We see glimpses of her vulnerability, her desire to break free from the Harkonnen legacy. But then there are those moments where her ambition and ruthlessness take over, and it's hard to know what's truly motivating her.
And on the other side of this conflict, we have Tula, Valia's sister, caught between her loyalty to the Bene Gesserit and her love for her son, Desmond, who's been infected by the technovirus.
Talk about an impossible situation.
You can see her struggling with those conflicting loyalties. The Bene Gesserit believe in controlling destiny, manipulating events to shape the future. But Tula is facing the very real possibility of losing her son, of seeing him become a weapon against his will. It throws the whole idea of prophecy versus free will into question, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It really makes you wonder how much control any of us truly have over our lives. The Bene Gesserit might think they can manipulate events, but ultimately fate has a way of throwing curveballs.
And Tula is caught right in the middle of that. It's heartbreaking to watch her struggle with those impossible choices, knowing that no matter what she does, there will be consequences.
And then there's Desmond himself. He's gone from this bright, curious kid to a pawn in this power struggle, a victim of this terrifying technology that's twisting him into something he was never meant to be.
It's like the show is saying that even in this world of advanced technology and interstellar empires, there are some things that are simply beyond our control.
And it raises a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, could Desmond break free from the technovirus? And if so, what would that look like? Would he be the same person? Or would the experience fundamentally change him?
I don't know. It's scary to even think about. And then, of course, there's the question of who's ultimately behind the technovirus.
Right. We still don't know who's pulling the strings, who's benefiting from all of this chaos.
It's like there are layers upon layers of manipulation going on, which brings us to the Fremen. Now, they might have been more in the background this season, but we know they're a major force on Arrakis. They control the spice, they understand the desert better than anyone, and they have a long history of being exploited by outsiders. What role do you think they'll play in all of this?
Well, I think they're the wild card, aren't they? They've been watching, waiting, and I don't think they're going to stand by and let their planet be destroyed.
No way. They're fiercely protective of Arrakis.
Exactly. And they have a deep connection to the land, to the spice. They understand its power, its importance.
So they're not just fighting for their own survival, they're fighting for the very soul of Arrakis.
And I think that makes them a force to be reckoned with, because they're not driven by power or ambition. They're driven by something much deeper, something primal.
I get what you mean. It's like they represent a force of nature, something that's been dormant for too long.
And now it's starting to awaken.
I have chills just thinking about it. And the show is really playing with our expectations, isn't it? Because it's not just sticking to the original Dune books, it's pulling from the prequels, adding new layers to the story, new characters, new twists.
Which makes it so exciting. We really don't know what's going to happen next.
And that ending, talk about a cliffhanger. Valia and Tula arriving on Arrakis face to face. It's like a powder keg about to explode.
Oh, absolutely. And that final scene with Tula's vision, It hints at something ancient and powerful, something lurking beneath the surface of everything we've seen so far.
It's like the show is saying, buckle up, things are about to get even crazier.
And we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Well, on that note, I think we need to take a break and come back to unpack all of that in part 2. But before we go, I want to hear from you. What are your theories about the technovirus? Who do you think is behind it all? Let us know in the comments, and we might just feature your thoughts in the next part of this deep dive.
Absolutely. We love hearing your thoughts and theories.
So until then, stay tuned and keep those spice detectors on high alert.
Because the journey through Dune is just beginning.
All right, so picking up where we left off, that ending, wow. I mean, Valia and Tula face to face on Arrakis. Talk about a tense moment.
Oh, definitely. It's like, all that history between them, all those years of rivalry and resentment just boiling over.
And that setting, the vastness of the Arrakis desert, it just adds to the feeling of, like, an impending showdown.
It's like they're two forces of nature about to collide, And you can't help but wonder who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, and then there's that vision Tula has. It's brief, but it's so cryptic and unsettling. Like, what was that all about?
Well, that's the thing about Dune, right? There are always these layers of mystery, these hints at something bigger at play.
It's like we're seeing the character struggles, but there's also this sense of, like, a grand cosmic plan unfolding in the background.
Exactly, and it really makes you think about the forces that might be shaping events, even beyond the character's choices.
So we've got the Bene Gesserit with their centuries-long schemes, the Talaxu, who are, well, kind of creepy with their whole genetic manipulation thing.
Oh yeah, they're definitely up to something.
And then there's the Spacing Guild, controlling all interstellar travel. Who knows what their agenda is?
Right. It's like everyone has their secrets, their hidden motives.
And then this vision suggests there might be something even older, even more powerful, lurking in the shadows.
Like something out of an ancient myth, almost.
Which brings us back to the technovirus.
Yeah, we know it's a weapon, but what if it's more than that?
You're thinking it could be connected to this, like, ancient force.
It's a possibility, isn't it? Think about how it transformed Desmond, how it took over his body and mind.
What if that's just a taste of what this entity is capable of?
It's a chilling thought.
It's like we're dealing with forces beyond our comprehension here. And the scariest part is we don't know who's controlling it. It could be any of the factions we've talked about or someone we haven't even met yet.
Exactly. It really adds to the suspense, like anything could happen.
And it makes you think about all the different ways this could play out. Will the technovirus be used to conquer Arrakis? Will it unleash some ancient evil? Or is there something else entirely going on?
Those are the questions that keep you up at night.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And this season finale, it just throws so much more fuel on the fire.
It expands the scope of the story, it raises the stakes, and it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Which is, frustrating in a good way.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you finish the episode and you're just left with this feeling of, I need to know more.
I totally get that. And speaking of wanting to know more, let's talk about the Fremen.
Oh, yeah. They're the big wild card in all of this, aren't they?
I mean, we know they're fierce warriors. They're adapted to the harsh environment of Arrakis. But what will they do in the face of this new threat, this technovirus?
And how will they react to Valia and Tula's arrival?
Will they see them as allies, as enemies, or something in between?
It's hard to say, but I think it's safe to assume they're not going to just sit back and watch events unfold.
No way. They're too invested in the fate of Arrakis.
Exactly. And they have a deep understanding of the planet, of the spice.
They might be the key to stopping the technovirus, or they could become another pawn in this deadly game.
Either way, I think they're going to play a crucial role in the seasons to come.
So we've got all these pieces in play. The Harkonnen sisters, the Bene Gesserit, the Tula, the Spacing Guild, the Fremen, this ancient force.
And the technovirus, this weapon that could change everything.
Where do you think all of this is heading?
Honestly, it's anyone's guess at this point.
But that's what makes Dune so compelling, right? It's a story that keeps you guessing, keeps you on the edge of your seat.
And this season finale, it really throws everything wide open.
It sets the stage for an epic showdown, with the fate of Arrakis and maybe even the entire galaxy hanging in the balance.
And I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Me neither. But before we get too carried away with speculation, let's take a step back and consider some of the key themes that emerged in this episode.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because Dune is more than just an action-packed adventure, right? It's a story that explores complex ideas, deep human emotions.
Absolutely, and I think one of the most prominent themes in this episode is betrayal.
Oh yeah, betrayal is definitely a major element here.
We see it on multiple levels, from the political betrayals between the great houses to the more personal betrayals between family members, between friends.
And even the betrayal of one's own self, like with Tula and her struggle to reconcile her loyalty to the Bene Gesserit with her love for her son.
It's a powerful theme, and it really makes you think about the nature of trust, the choices we make when faced with impossible situations.
And it's not always clear cut, like who's really betraying whom in all of this.
Right. There are so many layers of deception, so many hidden agendas.
It's like everyone is playing their own game and the lines between good and evil become blurred.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, so thought-provoking.
I agree. So as we move on to part 3 of our deep dive, I want you to keep this theme of betrayal in mind.
Okay, I will.
Because we're going to be exploring some of your questions, your theories, and we're going to delve deeper into this idea of betrayal, how it shapes the characters, the plot, the entire Dune universe.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, and I can't wait to hear what you all have to say. Okay, so we've unpacked a lot about the high-ended enemy, but now I really want to hear what you took away from this finale.
Yeah, what moments really stood out to you? What got you thinking?
We talked a lot about Valia, her choices, that huge decision to unleash the technovirus. Did that change how you see her? Is she a villain? Or is it more complicated than that?
Because it's easy to judge, right? But when you think about the pressure she's under, the legacy she's carrying, it makes you wonder if any of us would act differently in her shoes.
It's Dune, though, right? So, like, morally gray is kind of the name of the game. But then you have Tula struggling with this almost impossible situation.
Motherhood versus her Bene Gesserit vows.
Do you think she made the right calls? Could she have saved Desmond?
And it all ties back to that theme of betrayal we were talking about.
Oh, for sure. It's everywhere in this episode, isn't it?
Not just the big, obvious stuff like political maneuvering, but the smaller, quieter betrayals, those hit even harder sometimes.
Like, think about Tula and the Bene Gesserit.
She's given them her life, but their methods, their whole approach, is it ultimately betraying her own heart, her motherly instincts?
Yeah, is there a point where blind faith becomes its own kind of betrayal?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And then there's Desmond, betrayed by his own body, by the technovirus taking over. Makes you think, what even is the self when you can't control your actions?
Like, if someone's forcing you to do things, are you still you in there?
These are the questions Dune is so good at asking. It goes way beyond just spaceships and sandworms, It gets right into what makes us human.
And it leaves you with this, unsettling feeling. Because in Dune, there are no easy answers, no guarantees.
Alliances shift, power is constantly in flux.
Anyone can be betrayed, even the most powerful people.
So as we wrap up, I want to throw this out there. Looking ahead to future seasons, who do you think might betray someone else?
Ooh, good question. Will Valia and Tula finally turn on each other?
Will the Fremen side with anyone, or will they forge their own path?
And what about that ancient force Tula saw in her vision?
Could that be the ultimate betrayal, something that upends everything we think we know? So many possibilities. That's what makes Dune so exciting, right? We're just along for the ride.
Absolutely. And this season finale, it was a wild one, that's for sure.
But beyond the action, the twists, it's those big questions that stick with me.
The ones about choice, about betrayal, about what it means to be human.
Dune doesn't give us easy answers, but it sure makes us think.
And that's what we love about it, right? So keep those theories coming. Who knows? Maybe your ideas will play out in future seasons.
And until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and may the spice flow.
See you next time for another deep dive.